Welcome to the HR Committee of the Fire Authority. My name's Steve Battlemunch. For those who don't know me, I was on the Fire Authority a couple of years ago for 2 years, 2-year break. I'm back on now. I'm chairing today's meeting. Don't think we've got any apologies for absence, but we have got a replacement, a permanent replacement. Councillor Patel was appointed at the AGM, but Councillor Nick Rain has now come back onto the Fire Authority and therefore onto this committee as well. Nick actually was a previous chair of the HR committee, so looking around, that's pretty useful because I don't think any of us were on the committee last year. So any continuity issues, we'll look to Nick for guidance. Any other apologies? Don't think we've got any other. No. Any declarations of interest? No. Now the minutes of the last meeting in January, if you look at them and look at the attendance, again I say Nick was chair of that committee and I think he's the only person listed that's here today.
Very accurate, Steve, yeah.
So Nick says they're accurate, so...
no, there's nothing needs noting particularly either, so...
Yeah, and the officers are happy with them obviously,
yes.
They produce them. So we're into the two substantial documents, items 4 and 5, workforce plan, followed by the people and culture strategy. Larry is going to take us through the workforce plan first. Starts on page 3, agenda item 4. People just give people a couple of minutes to find it. That's it. Starts on the white pages. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. So both of the documents on the agenda this morning are really designed to be read together, and it's quite a nice way to start the meeting with some newer members as well, because what both documents do is really set the scene for where we've been with regards to people and culture and our workforce over the last 3 years through the life of our previous CRMP, and what our future plans are over the next 3 years to build on some of the successes that we've seen. So in terms of the workforce plan, that is a more tactical level document which is used by us as officers in the organisation, and is really the mechanism by which we implement the priorities that we've set out in the people and culture strategy, which I'll come on to afterwards. So we've attached a draft copy of the workforce plan as an appendix, which is what's making the documents a little bit more bulky than you would usually expect to see. So I'll just run through the way that the documents are set out, the sort of information that's contained within it, and what some of the priorities are that we're setting ourselves from a workforce planning perspective. So you'll see on page 3 and 4 that sets out our workforce overview. So as of March 2025, this is what our workforce profile looked like, both for the organisation as a whole, and then also separated out into whole-time, on-call and support cohorts. So you can see the demographic of the workforce, and then also we've included some information which sets out...
Sorry. This is page 3 and 4 of the main report, yes. Which also confusingly has listed page 10 and 11.
So
we're going. I just noticed that 1 or 2 people were, so I hope you don't mind. I think.
No, thank you. Sorry, the page numbers at the bottom.
Yeah, so we're on the workforce plan. Yeah. So it's listed page 3 and 4, but it's also listed page 10 and 11.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've also set out some information with regards to the number of dual contractors, so that they're individuals in our organisation who hold more than one role. Now it's important that we monitor those figures for workforce resilience, so we do keep a weather eye on that. Turning over to the next page, which is my page 5. This sets out what our establishment is, again for principal officer, whole-time, on-call and support staff sections of the workforce. and our differentials in terms of headcount. So that's the information that we use to plan our recruitment and promotion processes internally over the 2-year planning period, which we use because that's most accurate. The next page, page 6, sets out some of the highlights and the work that we've undertaken in the last 12 months or so, which has been significant. So you'll see some of the local work that we've been doing. We've introduced the Local Resilience Forum team in. We're proud to welcome them into Nottinghamshire Fire in conjunction with Nottinghamshire Police. We've undertaken a review of our prevention and our community engagement team, and we've got reviews ongoing in our people and organisational development team, and also looking forward to our digital services and ICT team as well. So this is part of our wider plan to make sure that our support services are aligned to deliver against the objectives of our next corporate risk management plan. You'll see that we ran a whole-time trainee course in April 24, and we've got another cohort of 12 whole-time firefighters joining us in September, and we're already looking forward to further whole-time recruitment within this year as well. We've been working hard to improve our occupational health provision, including the resilience and the resourcing within that team, and I'll come on to that work as part of the People and Culture Strategy update. And we've also brought the Clerk of the Combined Authority role in-house as well. In terms of some of the national pressures and priorities that we've been seeing, there's a significant amount of work still ongoing with regards to pensions remedy, and also a significant driver for change is the Inspectorate and their continued focus on standards of behaviour, values and culture in fire and rescue services generally. The National Fire Chiefs Council also have a significant programme of work ongoing with regards to their people, culture and leadership hub. So again, we use those national products and national priorities to inform our own workforce planning approach. And we're already forward looking to legislative changes that may be brought forward by the government. So in terms of areas to pick out for you, if I move you on to my page 12, which is headed Attendance and Sickness.
Page 19 of the big pack.
Thank you, Chair. This is really a look back at where we've been with regards to attendance and sickness absence management. So we're really pleased to be able to report a significant improvement for all staff groups in terms of whole time on call and support roles with regards to sickness absence management, and there's 2 graphs there which compare April to December 23 with April to December 24, and we've seen sickness significantly reduce in all staff groups over that time. You'll see that for on-call and support roles, we are still above the national average for sickness in those areas, so that is going to continue to remain a priority for us over the next planning period. And the narrative there sets out some of the arrangements that we've got in place in terms of oversight and scrutiny in that area. And some of the priorities with regards to occupational health, staff welfare and health and safety tie into that absence management and absence reduction priorities.
Can I just ask, because as a chair, no question is stupid, so when this one comes across as stupid, I'm going to dismiss it. Obviously, whole time, you know if somebody's off sick because they're meant to be in work and they phone in. Support roles, again, office support staff, looks fairly high, but there's probably an issue around that. But on call, if you're not, how is it reported that people are off sick if they're just available or not available? Do they have to say on every day, I'm not well, even though they might not be called upon?
Yes, yeah, so there is an expectation that they would book sick in the same way that other members of staff
Right.
would.
Okay.
Even though they are available or not available, they're still contracted to give a specific availability. And we would look at that specific availability on the basis of average over a period of time. And that is how it generates the period that they're entitled to in terms of sickness or not. So that so there is a contract in place and there is expectations that we have on them in terms of their availability.
And is that a national trend that this sickness levels in on call is higher than the main retained? Is it an age profile issue? Is it people on call who are semi-retired and maybe prone to a bit more sickness?
Yeah, so if you look at the graphs, the national averages are there on the second line. So you will see again the picture is reflected nationally that on-call sickness is higher than whole time. There's probably no one specific reason for that.
I've never come across data that really explains why that's the case. If you are an on-call firefighter, there are, they generally will have other primary employment, and whether that and we suffer as a consequence to whether that be sickness, injuries from that primary employment, the impact it has on the fire service as their secondary employer.
Yeah.
That is potentially one possibility, but I've never come across any data that fairly digs and explores that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
John?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Just picking up on what you said, if an on-call firefighter would also possibly have alternative employment, this might seem an obvious question. How much does an on-call firefighter get paid? Do they only get paid if they're called out? Are they on a retainer? And how is it going to compare to what their primary employment is? Because it could go a long way to explaining why, actually, I can earn more money at work. So they would then make themselves unavailable through accident.
Quite a complex answer, but the answer to your question is both. There is an on-call firefighter is paid an annual retainer based upon the type of contract that they are undertaking, and there is various different bands of availability. So, and you have to give me, but if they give 30 hours availability, they will be entitled to X amount of pounds. If they give 120 hours availability, it's greater. So there is bands of availability. They are then recompensed for their call out. So they'll get the retainer for an annual figure, and then they are paid on a basis that that we require them to work, we require them to train, whatever it may be. And and I think it's fair to say that the on-call is a challenging and really dedicated commitment that the on-call firefighters demonstrate, and how that and the balance of work-life balance and the balance between the primary and secondary employment is a significant challenge at times. Could that lead to potential crossover in terms of periods of sickness, one impacting on the other? Yes, it could.
And again, an obvious question, if they phone up and say I'm unavailable this weekend, do they still keep 100% of what their retaining allowance would be?
No, when they agree a contract which sets out a retainer, that retainer is then monitored over a period of time. And forgive me, I can't remember the exact period of time, but it's over an annual basis where we look at did they achieve that contract they've agreed with the service. If they fail to agree that, then there are conversations of whether there are performance-related contracts where they could slip down the contract and be paid less of a retainer, or it could mean other actions.
Okay, thank you.
My page 14 just summarises the turnover and forecasting data for the next 2 years. It was April 27 because we only do it over a 2-year period because it starts to get a bit less precise after that period of time. In summary, what the data is indicating is that we're going to have to continue to recruit both for whole-time and for on-call firefighters throughout that period. So you will see a lot of activity associated with those recruitments. In terms of support roles, we did have levels of turnover, particularly post-COVID, which were quite a challenge for us to manage. we've seen that significantly reduce from that peak back to what we would consider fairly normal levels now. So we have been doing some workforce planning activity to identify where we've got single person dependencies or key skills and roles that we need to build resilience, and we keep an eye on those from both a learning and development and training perspective, and also from a recruitment and retention perspective as well.
Can I ask, are the support roles all based here or are some based in fire stations?
We've got some based in fire stations, primarily Mansfield Fire Station and Highfields Fire Station, but the majority of our support staff are based here. There's then a section on workforce diversity planning, which needs to be read in conjunction with Appendix A to the workforce plan. So this comes on the back of some really good research which we've been doing at Nottingham University in the Office for National Statistics in terms of understanding our census data and our communities, and also on the back of some qualitative research which we commissioned to understand public perceptions around what people think of the fire service. Are we seen as an employer of choice for our communities? So again, this builds on some of the national priorities that are seen from the inspectorate and from the wider sector in terms of priorities for workforce diversification. So what the appendix does is sets out some ambitions that we've set for the organisation in this area. With regards to people and development, what the workforce plan sets out is our priorities. When I talked about turnover and forecasting, you need to remember that what we see in terms of recruitment requirements for entry-level roles, we'll also see further demand for promotion and progression as well at other managerial roles and ranks within the operational side of the workforce. So again, that's driving our leadership and management development training over this period, and also our wider learning and development activity, particularly with regards to operational training, to make sure that staff have got the core competencies that they require, and also as they progress through the ranks, the command experience and command competencies that they need as well. And we also, as part of this process, continue to monitor the number of employees that we've got in development. So it can take 2 years for a whole-time firefighter to become competent, because they enter the organisation through a firefighter apprenticeship programme. So it can take up to 2 years for them to go through that endpoint assessment.
Sorry, can I ask a question, please? Your leadership development programme, is that run internally, or you use external agencies, or a bit of a combination?
It's a combination. So we do have some internal delivery. We also commission some external delivery, and we some of it's face-to-face, some of it is virtual training, and then some of it is also digital e-learning, which we procure some of that, and we also develop some of that. We've got our own internal development capability for digital learning as well. So we have to try and strike a balance. Sometimes it's quite difficult to get people off fire stations into training, because we obviously need to maintain operational capability as well. So we try and balance that as best we can.
Thank you.
Just bear with me a second. So the only other thing to pick up is that this is the high level plan that we use at a strategic level. There's also some work that's been done by our HR business partners with heads of department, and that's very much looking at the specific particular risks that they have within their own teams. That's routinely managed, supported by the people services team for them to mitigate those risks. So where they've got a particular issue with difficulty in recruiting certain skills or retirement profiles and things like that, and that's managed through our departmental risk register process. So the purpose of just bringing that to your attention is to identify that we're managing different parts of workforce risk at the appropriate level within the organisation. That was all I wanted to say, but I'm happy to take any more questions if you are ready.
Any more questions, Nick?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Leila. Just going back to what be your page 12 and 13 and on page 19 and 20. Just in terms of sickness, we've talked about this before, obviously whole time is looking good for us.
Yes.
And on calls just about, we've still had some issues, it's improved in support roles, and I think we talked about the number of people who've been on long-term sick that possibly have skewed that, and you know what we can do with occupational health and work with people.
Yeah.
Just, if you just go through a bit what we're doing on that, because we are a bit still out of sync, aren't we, with national trends?
Yeah, so you'll see if you look at the second graph, which is on page 13, which is the more recent data from April to December 25.
Yeah.
Our whole time sickness absence, as you pointed out, councillor, is below the national average. That's a positive.
Yeah.
What we're seeing with on-call and support roles, there is still an issue with long-term sickness, which is being driven particularly at the moment by waiting times for surgery. So what we do aim to do, if we can, is to support people in a modified role within the organisation to keep them in the workplace, because we know that helps people to return sooner once they're back to full fitness. We're also have done some really detailed data analysis, particularly for the support roles, to identify where we've got trends or pockets of sickness, and we've done some targeted health and fitness interventions and occupational health and general wellbeing advice into those areas, and we're starting to see the fruits of our labour there. So in terms of support role sickness, you'll see from the previous reporting period, it's reduced, sickness absence for support is reduced from 11.8 days down to 5.8. So there is a significant reduction there, which is reassuring that it looks like some of the actions that we're taking are starting to come to fruition. It's also really helped as well. Our occupational health team is now back up to full complement. We unfortunately had a number of members of staff all leave around about the same time, so it's taken a little bit of time to get that team back onto a firm footing again. So they're now supporting both with what I would call the formal occupational health support through the nurse and through the doctor, but also we have a fitness advisor and general wellbeing and welfare support that we're putting into with heads of department and specific teams. So does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I mean, if I can say.
Yeah.
Another thing here as well, in terms of like what is on page 3 in terms of gender breakdown, obviously looking at whole time on call, and then looking at jumping to appendix 28, we've got some ambitious targets, because we have a problem, don't we, in terms of, it's a good problem to have, we retain staff for some time, so in terms of diversifying the workforce, particularly in terms of women becoming firefighters, obviously that's become an issue. We're getting more applicants, so we're going up to 25%. Do we still know why we don't seem to get as many female applicants? Is it, in terms of, applying for those jobs full stop, or we've spoken to them all?
Yeah, so when we commissioned the Into People report last year, and some of that was about understanding what people thought the fire service did, what they understood about the role, and it's clear that there are sections of the community that are almost self-selecting out of becoming firefighters because of what they understand the role to be. I think there's still some misconceptions about the fitness standards that are required, what the role entails, and certainly some of the conversations we've been having with communities, they didn't have the understanding about the breadth of the role of a firefighter, and also the opportunities that the organisation presents. So when you look at things like recruiting and attracting graduates as an example, they maybe saw that there wouldn't be opportunities for them in the organisation, when in actual fact the opposite is true, and there is a really clear delineated career path through for people who have the potential and would like it. So there's some work that we're looking to do to really strengthen our community engagement activities, so we're much clearer about what we do, and also look at how we're really marketing ourselves and marketing our roles and the opportunities that we've got, both for whole-time firefighters, which you've rightly pointed out is where the main challenge is with regards to gender, but also for some of our support roles. We have had some challenges in recruiting to some technical areas, just because of a shortage of staff in those areas, particularly ICT and things like that. So we're looking at how we can use some of what we've learned from our communities to improve and support those areas as well from a recruitment perspective.
We've also got, quite ambitious targets in terms of ethnic minority recruitment in the city, in an area sort of which I represent. Now, I'm wondering sometimes how it fits in. We've just been in the previous committee in Council Ban, which was listening to that, because obviously we do business safety checks, and we look at, there's a lot of things, particularly in the city, around that, and you're thinking, if we could get the two to marry up, because obviously it would help us in terms of some of those people in the groups or the areas that they live in predominantly are ones where they've possibly got the least safe housing, or we've got lots of businesses that have had fire issues, etc., and unsuitable or more dangerous accommodation. And you're thinking, if we could look at it being an ideal world, obviously we'd go in and assist those communities, and then say to people, connect to those communities, have you thought about joining the fire service, which has also assisted us in terms of languages, like we heard, and stuff in there. So, I'm just thinking, wonder what we can do around that. And we've had some good publicity campaigns, etc.
Yeah, so we put some, when we did the prevention and community engagement restructure last year, one of the drivers for that was to look at having dedicated resources which were assigned for community engagement, and we do community engagement for all sorts of different reasons, to build understanding, to make businesses safer, to make people safer in their own homes, but there's a definite recruitment and positive action strand to that work as well. So hopefully you'll start to see over time that kind of coordination of messaging now really being driven from that community safety and community engagement team. And again, some of the research that we've done, some of the data analysis that we've done, we've shown that really where our workforce is joining us from at the moment, we know that the city is underrepresented in that, and trying to get underneath why that is. And again, some of the conversations that we've had with community leaders in underrepresented areas, what they're saying to us is actually there's a real synergy between their values and their beliefs and what's important to them, and our organisational values and beliefs and what's important to us. So there's definitely potential there and it feels like the door is open for us to work with those communities really closely. So it's definitely positive.
Yeah, it's probably about promoting more positive role models as well in adverts and in general propaganda that goes out from the fire service, in terms of making it a service that's open to all.
We did some really good stuff in terms of some of our inspection teams and some of the stuff that was going out via our social media, etc. That's pretty good. I think the last year or two we've made some real improvements there. Yeah. And some of this stuff's going to be culture as well, isn't it? Because if you're looking at sexual orientation, for example, it's almost like you think, well, if people are honest, whatever. If you look at that, because there's the reticence, I think, in some parts of people to talk about that, particularly in fire stations and things like that, isn't it? So some of the answers to that is a cultural thing within our own organisation, but we've made big improvements.
Okay, so in terms of the first report, the workforce plan, the recommendations on page 5 were to endorse the service workforce plan, to agree to receive annual updates and to provide feedback, which we've done. People happy on that section to endorse?
Agreed.
Yeah. It says drafting, are you asking to approve it or to endorse it? It says endorse, which you want the committee to approve.
I think it is endorsed. Sorry.
It is. I would say it's endorsed. We bring it over the endorsement.
Yeah.
It's on page 5, yeah?
Yeah, they're the recommendations, 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. We all agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. So that takes us on to agenda item 5, which is the people and culture strategy. Isn't it?
Sorry, me again. I'm probably going to cause confusion with page numbers again. Apologies.
Starts at page 35 in the big numbers.
So this report is really to present to members the people and culture strategy. Again, it's got draft on it. We are asking for it to be endorsed, but again, there is still an opportunity for members to provide any feedback prior to us publishing the strategy if there are any comments that you'd like to be taken into consideration. So the People and Culture Strategy forms one of the suite of 4 documents which sits under our CRMP. So we've got a Community Safety Strategy, People and Culture Strategy, our Enabling Services Strategy, and then our financial strategies. So the primary focus of the People and Culture Strategy is, unsurprisingly, people services, occupational health and staff wellbeing, learning and development, training, and organisational development and inclusion. So really this updated People and Culture Strategy really builds on the successes that we've seen over our previous strategy period, which included a rating of good from the Inspectorate for all aspects of people and culture as part of our last HMI inspection that we received. Over the last strategy period, the service has, with the support of members, invested heavily in operational training facilities and also invested to modernise our workplaces to make sure that they are accessible and inclusive for everybody. And this work is going to continue over the next 3 years with further investment into operational training and hot fire training facilities up at our Service Development Centre, and also continued work to modernise our fire station estate. As I've previously talked about, we've got ongoing investment into our occupational health function and also our health and safety function, which really are to deliver our ambitions to protect our colleagues and keep them safe from harm. We've already commissioned some work to start to review our people and organisational development team to make sure that they've got the necessary skills and capabilities to really push us on through this next 3-year strategy period, so we can start to innovate in terms of our recruitment and talent management processes, as well as dealing swiftly and fairly with misconduct, which is an expectation from the National Standards of Behaviour report, which has been published by the Inspectorate. So I'm not going to go through the document in a great amount of detail, but I'll just talk you through how it's structured and the key points. So my page 6 and 7, sorry.
44 and 45.
Thank you.
Forward thinking.
Sets out the operating context, and it talks about a lot of the drivers for change, both locally and nationally, the legislative responsibilities that we've taken into account, and also a forward look to the Employment Rights Bill and some of the changes that we're likely to see coming forward as part of that government agenda. So just to give some reassurance that we've spent some time horizon scanning, doing an analysis of both the national and the local operating context, and then following on from that, you've just got a diagram which helps to set out where the strategy sits in terms of our ambition and governance framework. Page 18 and 19 it would be useful for you to look at. That's titled Employee Offer.
It's 56 and 57.
Thank you. There's a lot of information on this page. What it does really nicely is to set out really from even before somebody joins us, joins our organisation, right through to retirement and post-retirement, what our offer to employees is, some of the employment benefits that we offer, and the commitments that we offer to our workforce, the way that we recognise and reward staff, and also the support that's available to them throughout their careers with us, both from a health, fitness and welfare perspective, which we're really proud of, but also with regards to career development, progression, training, coaching and mentoring, etc. So it was a useful snapshot into kind of what our offer is to staff. Now, the main content of the strategy is set out from page 21 onwards, our goals and plans. And what the strategy does is it breaks down under the 6 strategic goals that are set out within the CRMP, so prevention, protection and response, people and culture, service improvement and sustainability, what the high level ambitions are within those areas. So I'll just pick out a couple of key highlights within each one. So with regards to prevention, we've already talked about the restructure that's previously happened to support our community engagement activities, and we're going to continue to support and embed that over the strategy period. And also a look as to how we can enable the use of volunteers in this service area to both build community engagement and also to support service delivery with people who are already active within their local communities. With regards to fire protection, there's a significant amount of change that we're seeing in this area nationally, which is being driven by a lot of the legislative changes that are coming in to support safety in the built environment post-Grenfell. So there's ongoing reform to building safety regulation, which is going to have a significant impact on the number of people that we need in this area to support that work, and that there is government funding that is available to us to support that, and also making sure that we've got the skills and the capabilities and the technical competencies that we need within the organisation, and that we're able to recruit and retain those individuals. With regards to response, significant part of my team's work is really what we would consider to be business as usual in terms of making sure that staff have got the right skills and competencies to be safe and effective with what they're doing operationally. We're very heavily engaged with both nationally and regionally with regards to keeping up to date with operational guidance to make sure that our training's effective and that we're dealing properly with new and emerging risks in our communities. And we're also supporting our response colleagues as they do a review of their specialist response capabilities to make sure that our training teams properly supporting the introduction of new vehicles and technology as that's brought into service. We're also doing a significant amount of work with our health and safety team to make sure that our policies and procedures and risk assessments are effective, and that we're managing and mitigating the risk from contaminants, which continues to be a core national and local priority for the sector. Strategic goal 4 is people and culture, and unsurprisingly that's where the bulk of the work of the strategy sits really. So we've already talked about some of these priorities when we were going through the workforce plan, so hopefully you'll see how the priorities cascade down from the CRMP through the strategy into the tactical delivery. So in terms of culture and staff satisfaction, again with regards to misconduct, a number of the recommendations were related to cultural improvement and cultural change within the wider sector, and we're looking locally at how we can implement some of that. I think it's important to point out at this point though that we're starting from a positive place. Our last staff survey indicated a 72% staff satisfaction rate, so we're by no means a failing organisation, but there's always improvement that can be made and work that needs to be done to maintain that really positive position. We've talked about training and competence and occupational health and wellbeing, so I won't dwell on that anymore. And also we've already talked about misconduct and taking account of the way that that's managed. So again, you'll start to see a theme of those priorities being reflected through the strategy.
Just on the Operational colleagues passing an annual fitness test.
Yeah.
Is that 100% or what happens if somebody doesn't?
It's very nearly 100%, so about 98%, which is very high. If they don't pass, then they are taken off operational duty, but we do have a dedicated fitness advisor as part of our occupational health team, so they will work with them, build them a programme, support them to get their fitness back, and we see really positive successes from those interventions.
So in the interim, would they be allocated other duties like safe and well visits? Or?
Yeah, so what we try to do is to put them onto modified duties. So although they won't be operational on a fire engine, they'll be doing other meaningful work.
But with the aim of getting them back on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Strategic Goal 5 is around service improvement, and some of the priorities in this area are really driven by looking for efficiencies through more effective use of technology and better insight from the data that we've got to inform our organisational decision making. So we're looking at how we can use our HR and people systems to have much more kind of self-service for people, and improving processes both for the wider workforce but also for managers in terms of how they engage with people services, and also looking at how we're using and understanding data. So we've talked about absence, but there are also other areas of workforce data. We're looking at how we can better use that to drive some of our organisational decision making. And then strategic goal 6 is related to sustainability. So you'll see there we're looking at retendering for both our human resources and our occupational health management systems throughout this 3-year strategy period, which is a significant amount of work, but again will bring benefits to us in terms of the data and analysis and insight that's available to us. And as we've already touched on, continuing to support the development of our operational training facilities to make sure that our training function is sustainable and reflects what's needed from a modern day fire and rescue service over the next strategy period. So from this point onwards, there's a lot more detail in terms of our ambitions, our operating context and our resourcing model to deliver that, and then within each section it sets out in more detail what we're aiming to deliver in years 1, 2 and 3 of the strategy period, which I wasn't intending to go through in any detail, but builds on the high level ambitions which I've run through. Sorry, I'm conscious of a lot of information.
That's good. Questions, Nick?
No, it's good. It's very detailed. There's a lot of good work that's been going on over a number of years now, isn't it? I think we're quite ambitious. It links into the previous one. I mean, looking back at it, the Employment Rights Bill, obviously, you know, people like myself can be very happy reading some of this stuff about day one employment rights, etc., and extra protection for maternity and paternity and unfair dismissal. But I don't think that's, to be fair, going to affect us, is it? Because, you know, we'd like to think we are very good employees. We have good relations, high level of satisfaction and good relations with our friends in the trade unions, so hopefully that won't be too much of a difficulty for us at all. Going forward, I suppose, in terms of some of these things, the only thing that could be a problem for us, I suppose, is finance, isn't it? But, you know, I don't see that as being a difficulty. Thanks for a very thorough report.
Yeah. In terms of sustainability and new technology, we could maybe have another look at whether we could have the Fire Authority papers online. That might save a few quid on paper. And that said, people who chair meetings do like documents in front of them.
You're not going to say, Councillor Battleman.
Just speak for yourself. Yeah.
Without speaking about IT problems we've got elsewhere, if you're chairing a meeting and it's now publicly screened and you haven't got access to the documents, so, you know, call me old-fashioned. I'm very happy we've got these.
Yeah. Yeah. You can doodle on and make your emergency notes on here as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might want to rescind that point.
Back to the drawing board. I've been beaten back by the Luddites.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the report? No. Okay, let's go back to the recommendations, which I think were at the start of the report. So on our page 38. We're endorsing the people and culture strategy, and we have provided feedback, and ongoing feedback can always be provided. Are we happy to note that?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much. I think that might bring us to the end of the meeting. So I declare the meeting closed at 12:15 for the purposes of the recording. Is there anything you want to say? No, we've